We have a panel of eminent rheumatologists and immunologists with us today to discuss the nuances of immunity and what made them choose something that sounds so tricky as a career. Please, join me in welcoming Professor Debashish Danda, the founder of Clinical Immunology and Rheumatology Department at CMC Vellore and President-elect of the Asia Pacific League of Association of Rheumatology. We also have Dr. Aman Sharma, the Professor of Clinical Immunology and Rheumatology, Internal Medicine at PGIMER, Chandigarh. He's also the recipient of the prestigious Rabindra Tagore Oration by the Association of Physicians of India and the annual IRA Oration by the Indian Rheumatology Association. And we also have Dr. Ruchika Goel, an immunologist and a rheumatologist and an ICMR DHR scholar at the Institute of Clinical Sciences, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Birmingham in the UK. A warm welcome to all our speakers and our panelists who are joining us now. I see Dr. Danda is with us, and we will shortly be joined by Dr. Aman and Dr. Ruchika Goel as well. Dr. Danda, let's start with you. Now, immunity has come into focus because of the coronavirus. Everybody is talking about how you can boost your immunity so that you may not fall prey to the virus. How true is this? Is it scientifically proven that you can actually boost your immunity to ward off viruses? Because coronavirus is also a virus.
Thank you. First of all, I thank IHW Council for doing such a lovely initiative, probably for the first time in the country. And there is such a large scale function of recognizing the doctors as a whole, doctors community. Thank you, and the medical health worker community. Yes, this is a very, very relevant question because everybody is talking of this. You are absolutely right. But it has to be taken with a pinch of salt if you go by data and evidence. I'll first give a brief overview of how the normal immune system functions, and then we will understand how immunity is really there. Basically, first of all, I must say before I go to the immune system, I must reassure everybody there is hardly anyone who has got lack of immunity to, to fight the virus corona, and most of us have a good amount of immunity. It is just the trick of the virus which escapes the normal immune path and leads us into a difficult scenario where the immune system becomes so robust and so hyperactive that it actually damages our tissue, as you very rightly said, cytokine storm. Normal, in any disease, immune system plays a very important role apart from the genetic makeup of a human being. The immune system consists of the major immune organs like the lymph nodes, the skin, the thymus, the bone marrow, the gastrointestinal lymphoid tissue, skin, and such organs. There are also immune cells. We have T lymphocytes, we have B lymphocytes, we have various phagocytes, we have the complement system. All of them contribute to have a balanced immune action. We also have important immune molecules which mediates the various immune pathways, which include various cytokines, our genetic components of the immune system, the HLA molecules. There are also chemokines. There are many other mediators of inflammation like prostacyclins and prostaglandins and leukotriene molecules of other types. So all these things come into play when the immune reaction comes. The immune response of the body again can be different types.
Hello? Hello?
Am I audible? Am I not audible? Hello? Hello?
So you're audible.
Okay. So the immune response can be again different types. Like you can have a cellular immune response, you can have an antibody-mediated immune response. These are again different types. Cellular immune response can be of different types: helper cells, cytotoxic cells, of that kinds of cellular immune response. We have antibody response, and we have also the various types of antibody-dependent cellular cytotoxicities. We have also phagocytosis, where the abnormally infected cells are consumed. So going by the different pathways, I will talk to you about naturally how the immune system reacts. Whenever there is a foreign invasion by a microorganism, whether it is a virus or bacteria or fungus or any other microorganism, there is something called innate immunity, which is very immediate and it is non-specific and broad. There's also the more specific ones called adaptive immune response, which involves more specific targeting of the antigens produced by various microorganisms. So these are the two broad types of immune mechanisms. What happens in COVID? It's very important to know that
Dr. Danda,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Sir, your audio is very faint. We can't hear you very well.
Uh, Now, okay. Better now. Hello. Is this better now?
It's much the same, sir. Please go on. We'll try to
Okay.
boost the audio, but
Okay.
please go
Okay.
on.
Okay. Uh, so basically, the when the COVID enters our body through the receptors called angiotensin converting enzyme type 2 receptors, it actually escapes the initial immune pathways to block it, like we have the interferon response. Somehow, normally any viral infection, the body produces a good amount of interferons, especially interferon gamma. Interferon response is defective in case of in case of COVID in the initial part, and because of this, the virus escapes and it multiplies, it infects the cells, and it commands over the normal cells to produce the proteins which the virus compels us to produce. And at that time, the antigen presenting cells, there are different kind of antigen presenting cells, which recognize these cells because the surface protein of the infected cells are actually the viral proteins, the spike proteins and different types of proteins. Once they recognize, they produce they produce something known as interleukin 12. Interleukin 12 helps in production of Th1 type of T helper cell immune response, which is the first pathway to go into either antibody production by stimulating B cells or by stimulating the killer cells called the cytotoxic T cells response. So normally in viral infections, interferon pathway and the killer cell of the T cell pathway is more important than antibodies. The neutralizing antibodies come much later, and they are useful in the survivors of the infection in preventing future infection in them. These are the three, four important immune pathways where the body reacts to COVID. Now, how can you improve your immunity better? It's a very, very tricky question. Ideally speaking, if you ask me, is there any drug or anything or diet which can improve the immunity? The answer is no. There is no drug or any molecule or food which can improve the immunity, nor there is a need for it. The immunity, what these many drugs and the various food components can do at the best is they can kill the virus, but they don't stimulate your immune system. They don't stimulate the immunity. So what happens is the first question: what is that? You need to have something which makes the interferon to be produced in a large amount, interleukin 12 produced in a large amount so that our helper cells, our cytotoxic T cells, our antibody response is robust. To do that, what happens is, what can you guess? What are the things that can help? Just certain simple lifestyle changes can do. One of the very important things you would have read and come across everywhere is good sleep. If you sleep for more than 8 hours a day, it has been found that it improves the production of interleukin 12 and gamma interferon, which helps in the antiviral mechanism, subsequent antiviral mechanism. Second is a stress-free period. Stress produces endogenous corticosteroids and catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and these things suppress the immune system. So if there is a stress, our normal psycho, neuro, immuno, endocrine axis is badly suppressed, and by being relaxed, and here you can say roles like yoga and meditation do help in calming down people, and which will help in this thing. So uh, so when you come to immune stimulation, I would say that yes, you can possibly prevent immunity being suppressed, normal immunity being suppressed, but there is nothing called immune stimulation except for these physiological mechanisms like doing regular exercise, having a balanced diet. Few other micronutrients do help, like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc. They also, not only they're antioxidants, they also help in modulating the immune system. What is needed is a balanced immune system. We don't need a very aggressive immune system. So what happens in the COVID is at the end, the body is so aggressively trying to fight the virus, it actually injures our own tissue and kills us. So we need a balancing of the immune system, which is done to some extent by vitamin D, is actually a sort of corticosteroid. And we also have other molecules which we will come across, we can discuss later when the cytokine storm is discussed. So the immune system, if it is not balanced, what can it do? The specialty which I'm practicing, and all the other panelists here are dealing with people with autoimmune diseases. When the immune system behaves rogue, they produce autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, vasculitis, and serious illnesses. So there also the immune system is aggressive, but it's abnormal. It's the mad immune system. The immune system becomes mad because normally the immune system can differentiate self from non-self. If that barrier is broken and the immune system fails to recognize who is our enemy and who is our friend or part of us, then the barrier is broken, and then you have the abnormal immune response. So similarly, you can also have immunodeficiency when the immune system functions abnormally, like in primary immunodeficiency disorders or in secondary, like in HIV infection. We also have immune-related malignancies where the immune system is malfunctions, like in lymphomas and leukemias. So there are many ways the immune system can behave. To keep the immune system balanced is more accurate term than stimulating the immune system. There is nothing called immune stimulation in real life to fight the virus. I hope I made my point clear.
Yes, yes, Dr. Danda, thank you so much for clarifying for everyone. Dr. Ruchika Goel is also with us. Dr. Goel, Dr. Danda has explained to us how simple lifestyle changes really help in increasing interleukin and improving our immune function. But it's something so contradictory because I want to be stress free, but I'm scared of the disease. I'm scared to step out. I'm scared I'll catch it. So it is so difficult to deal with these stresses that perhaps getting, sound sleep is more difficult than popping a pill. I feel, okay, let me take vitamin C, let me have some haldi milk, let me have some ginger. So these are easier way outs than trying to relax when you're just, gripped by fear. What is the way forward so that, like Dr. Danda said, our immune system is in balance, not overactive and not weakened?
Hello, Anisha. As first of all, I would like to say that there's no end to fear. So, I mean, we have to understand that there are certain things which are there in our hand and certain things which are not there, which we can modify. So as far as virus is concerned, I mean, it is something where probably I think the best way to go forwards in containing this epidemic and containing fear is to probably, I mean, prevent us getting infected with this virus. So what people have looked at, the social distancing measures and all the other protective measures which are being followed worldwide are the most important way to basically get away without getting this disease. However, I mean, all of us being humans are concerned about our immune system and all. So I think, as Dr. Danda has rightly pointed out, a very good, a healthy lifestyle helps. But even if we know all these things, we are bound to get stressed. So maybe we could adopt some of the stress relieving techniques. I mean, though I am a medical personnel, but I think some of the de-stressing activities which lead to increase in anti-inflammatory cytokines as well as various other anti-inflammatory molecules like endorphins and all. So yoga may help. But other than that, what has been, I mean, if you look at the lifestyle changes and diet and nutrition, what the studies which have come up, I think there is only vitamin D, which acts as a potential candidate, which prevents the viral, our body to get infected with virus, and not apart from just getting the general protective role of vitamin D. It is a very good immune enhancer, and it also has a pathological role in the entry of virus into the cells, because the virus uses one particular receptor which is known as angiotensin converting enzyme. So it has an effect on probably the entry of virus into the cells. So what I can think of as far as lifestyle measures are concerned and the diet and nutrition is concerned, I think a good sunlight exposure, which increases your vitamin D, and a good sleep if you can have, and maybe some of the de-stressors. I think these are the only things which may help in alleviating your fear, at the same time give you a little bit of a confidence that you are also doing something apart from the virus in trying to get over this disease.
All right.
I don't think I can help you more than that.
All right. Dr. Aman Sharma is also with us. Dr. Sharma, I wanted to find out from you, this whole thing about cytokine storm, where your body is, your immune cells are in overdrive to fight the virus and then attack your organs as well. Is this a typical reaction in anyone who gets COVID? I'm guessing it's not, because a lot of people have mild cases of corona and they get better. But some people end up in the hospital, are put up on a ventilator, some come off and some just don't recover. So what is it that separates those who will not have the cytokine storm to those who will have the cytokine storm? Any markers, anything that we can say with definitely that this will happen?
Thank you very much, Hanisha, for having me here. And I'll thank my senior Dr. Danda and also Ruchika, who already spoken very elaborately. Although I was a bit late, there was some internet connectivity issue here. I think most of the basic science issues have already been addressed by Dr. Danda. Part of it I heard, and has already also been alluded to by Ruchika. When we say cytokine storm is something which every Indian kind of has become aware of as of now because of COVID. And this is something which we all dread, that should not happen in any patient with COVID disease. And as you rightly said, we are all also aware that it occurs only in some subset of individuals. If you go by, what I believe, and I'm sure Dr. Danda would have already alluded to, we do not diagnose all those who get infected. We diagnose only the ones who get tested, while there must be a larger pool circulating or roaming around in the population, which also might have had mild infections or may not have had any symptoms at all, might still be harboring that virus in their body. So if you factor that unaccounted disease burden with the ones which are accounted for by testing, so then the total number of patients who develop cytokine storm, who get infected, would become even smaller than what we presume it is now. So if you go by, so we have had in Chandigarh, fortunately we haven't had too many patients. Chandigarh is a new city, and some strictness, and we don't have too many crowded places like many other, fortunate to have, because it's just very young city. So we have only had I think 400 odd patients in Chandigarh. And our institute initially was the only institute which was admitting most of the patients. And if we go by our own experience, I think probably 70 to 80% of the patients either do not have any symptoms or have very mild symptoms, like they have some cough, some sore throat, and which is only transiently. And 10% of the patient would have fever, high grade, and uh, probably less than 10% are the ones which what we call as moderate to severe disease. Out of those, uh, uh, when we say moderate diseases, those who develop pneumonia, and out of those, maybe 20 to 30% of them, of those, the moderate to severe ones, they eventually go into a phase which is what we call a cytokine storm. Generally, this is in the second half. If we divide the illness into 2 weeks, it is generally in the second half of the illness. Many a times the fever goes away and people believe that they are getting better. And the other thing which they have is happy hypoxia, while they are not feeling breathless, and they certainly dip down. And that is when the cytokine storms really hits in. So at that time, it is in very small subsets. So that is the answer to your question, and that's based upon what our experience is. And Dr. Danda can check me if can correct me if there is information to the contrary. But that is what our own experience has been, and probably maybe less than 5% would develop. And once those develop, then who develops is the other question. I don't think we have clear-cut biomarkers as such. But one thing which is certainly there is that those people who are the ones who are likely to be sicker. In our experience, we've had patients with chronic kidney disease, patient on dialysis who developed it, patients with malignancies on chemotherapies who've had it. And also we've had patients who have central obesity, morbidly obese people. So those who are with, and the ones that we've lost also because of cytokine storm have been generally the ones who've had comorbidities of one form or the other. The one which I can remember offhand, 2 patients were chronic liver disease, decompensated cirrhosis and liver failure. We've had 3 or 4 patients with on maintenance dialysis who died because of cytokine storm. We've had a couple of patients who were having malignancy, were on chemotherapy. So these are the ones which we lost. And it is a known fact that the people who have central obesity, so beside diabetes and hypertension, the ones who are morbidly obese, you see, they are the ones who are more likely to develop the cytokine storm. And it is being increasingly understood these days that obesity is also a pro-inflammatory state. So we've had certain landmark trials in which even people have shown association of anti-inflammatory kind of drugs in things like coronary artery disease or atherosclerosis. So it is not just obesity, it is also inflammation driven. So obesity is also a marker of inflammation going haywire in this kind of a subset. So while we were alluding to the exercise and pranayama and yoga, while it may not have direct effect on the viral replication in the body, but it doesn't do any harm. You see, if somebody even starts, say, for example, I'll give you my example. I lost 6 kgs during this COVID pandemic lockdown era, because one, we've cut down on the travel and bad habits, eating out and all of that. We are checking on the calories, and we are also trying to do a bit of exercise. So I'm sure if it won't have a direct effect, it will definitely have an indirect effect. So it doesn't do any harm to you to get up and do some exercise, do some yoga. It's something which is surprising, and I think I'll wish Dr. Danda to, he's to comment. We had some contradictory literature on smoking not being associated with severe COVID. So whether that is to do with some receptor or it's just a false kind of bias data which is coming our way. So I don't want to give that message to start smoking. But that is, but when we're talking about science, that's data which we also need to at least dispel if some people lay their hand on, because there was something which I actually came across where they said that smokers have less severe, but I won't really wish to believe. That just might be some recruitment bias or something like that. Because some things, I believe in nature, something which generally is associated with bad outcomes in most of the diseases would also be associated with bad outcomes. That the problem might have been the acquisition of data, not really with true association with less severe disease. That's what my take if somebody reads it. So I won't really tell people that, smoking would save you.
It's
So that's
formidable.
something. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Danda, like Dr. Aman Sharma has said, there are no clear-cut markers that X will have a cytokine storm and Y will not have a cytokine storm. Now, when we are treating COVID patients, and this whole process is going to carry on since this virus is going to remain with us for a long time, what are the actual therapies that you can undertake to help a patient undergoing a cytokine storm? The government has approved dexamethasone. It's a low-cost steroid that calms your immune system down. Should this be given to all corona patients? Are there any side effects? Somebody who is in severe state of the COVID disease, you're putting on a ventilator, you're helping his lungs, but the other organs are getting attacked by the immune system. What therapies can you give here so that you can help the lungs to breathe, plus help the other organs from getting attacked from the immune system?
Thank you very much. This is a very relevant question, and it has implications in people's mind because, whatever we say here, we have to be very cautious and careful, because sometimes people pick up the most rarest of the rare thing and forget the crucial point. It's very good of you to wake up this issue. The first of all, I will talk about who are the people who are susceptible to get cytokine storm. Well, the final answer is not yet there. Like any disease, there must be underlying genetic predisposition which has not been studied yet. But whatever is available based on whatever clinical data we are seeing from literature, and what Dr. Aman very rightly said, for an Indian, average South Asian, I must say the central obesity is the number one risk factor. We ignore this as a disease. No doctor writes with all of us have a, after 40 we start getting our waistline broad and our abdomen protruding with a big belly. And people think it's a normal, it's a sign of, being
aging.
wealthy. Yes. So this is the significant marker of phenotype of people who harbor a condition called metabolic syndromes. Metabolic syndromes are the people who develop diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, high lipids, high cholesterol, all that. And moment you have it, it speaks for high, Ruchika said H2 receptor. They have a higher angiotensin converting enzyme receptors and angiotensin converting enzyme in them. So these are the people who have to be cocooned, they have to be protected, and they have to be given extra protection. So this is a very important clinical marker for going into critically ill condition. Apart from that, all the other comorbidities that Dr. Aman has mentioned is very important. So this is to be remembered. Now, going to the treatment part. Now, it is a very tricky issue because the message given by any publication is often not critically appraised by people, and people jump into conclusion. If you read the paper on dexamethasone, it says very clearly only 11% of patients of COVID who are on ventilator had a survival advantage compared to the other arm of treatment. So it is nothing. It doesn't help. And before the patient goes into critical phase, we should not use dexamethasone. It is the most misused drug in our country by quacks, by all kinds of people, because it gives a general sense of well-being, and it does a lot of harm in suppressing the immune system, normal immune system. So this is not desirable, except when there is a cytokine storm. We all three practice rheumatology in this panel, and we all understand steroids and the immunomodulators and immunosuppressants very well. In fact, all the panelists will agree that that we have something known as macrophage activation syndrome, seen in lupus and in a disease in children called Still's disease. They have macrophage activation syndrome similar to this with cytokine storm. Cytokines are molecules which are different kinds. Here, the pro-inflammatory cytokines like interleukin 1, TNF alpha, and interleukin 6 are affected. Fortunately, rheumatologists have in our armamentarium drugs which can block them. We have a drug called tocilizumab, which can block interleukin 6. We have drugs to block TNF alpha. We have also drugs to block interleukin 1. And that is why this drug, tocilizumab, has been found to have reasonable success in patients with critically ill patients of COVID. And there is a recent study came out from American College of Rheumatology and International League of Associations for Rheumatology that people of rheumatic diseases who were on TNF blockers actually have a lesser, they have a 60% protection against severe COVID disease. So that's a very good news. So what I'm trying to say,
Dr. Danda, the drug that you're talking of, is it the same drug that is the Indian, Syngene drug? Is it the drug which is under evaluation? Is it approved?
it's a proven drug. All these drugs are in use for last 15 years or so. And tocilizumab is a very effective drug for Still's disease in children. And we also use it in macrophage activation syndrome in adults.
Sir, my question was whether it is approved for treatment in COVID.
I do not think so. It has been yet approved as a treatment for COVID, but it is being used quite widely off-label, and it is being reported to have success. Probably, I must say, a little safer than dexamethasone in high doses. Dexamethasone is you have to use it a pinch of salt and cautiously. And I would leave it to the critical care doctors who are treating critically ill COVID patients using their own wisdom and judgment, because it can be acting like a two-edged sword. There are risks with tocilizumab also, but probably lesser than steroids.
Right. Dr. Goel, the question I want to ask you is there an increase in autoimmune diseases that we are seeing these days? I mean, when we were younger, at the time of our grandparents, we did not see them being afflicted, or at least hear about them being afflicted with autoimmune issues. Has this got anything to do with our lifestyle? Why are we hearing more about, my colleague was not even 30 and she had rheumatoid arthritis. She used to move in pain. So suddenly we're seeing more of this happening when autoimmune issues, which were not there perhaps 2 generations back. Is this true, or is it just, it is not proven by facts?
Regarding the increased prevalence of autoimmune diseases in the current era, I think yes, the most important thing is it is a better diagnosis. I think people are more aware, the clinicians as well as the general public, both of them are more aware about these diseases. And most of the disease, quite a lot of diseases are actually being newly understood. So I think it is not that more of patients are getting autoimmunity. It is mainly the increased awareness among the clinicians as well as the patients. Yes, there is a theory behind autoimmune diseases to be more common nowadays. It is basically, the infection and immunity hypothesis. So as you can see in the developed countries where, the proportion, they have controlled infections. So when they have controlled infections, there is an increase in surge in the autoimmune diseases. So it is because we call it as, hygiene immunity hypothesis, where you take care of the hygiene, you will have an increase in the autoimmune diseases. But I do not know whether it is absolute increase in the autoimmune diseases, or whether it is because your other diseases are getting low and low that you are getting these non-communicable diseases and autoimmune diseases going up in the current era. So I think it is more of awareness with a little bit to do with our better hygiene nowadays. It's like a trade-off.
All right. Dr. Sharma, you said that those people who are morbidly obese have higher inflammatory markers. So if, like Dr. Danda said, do yoga, get good sleep, get a good lifestyle, and that will help you to keep this virus at bay, then would you make exercise a prominent thing to do as well to keep this virus at bay? If you are overweight, shouldn't this be the first thing you should do instead of shutting all the windows, washing your hands 1,000 times, taking care of yourself? Is it really true that morbidly obese people have higher inflammatory markers?
You see, I won't say that don't, one thing is wash your hands, take all precautions. Besides that, utilize the time and the opportunity which nature has brought your way, which may have never come your way otherwise. Because the mankind was so busy in the matters, worldly matters, which mattered most in those times were really not that important as we realize as of now. For example, people like me, Dr. Danda, were packing their bags every weekend or every 2 weeks, going and speaking at the conferences, getting up early in the mornings, losing the sleep, yeah, and then putting up with the research papers, research, looking at the grants and all that. Once everything has come to a halt, we realize that what we were running for from one place to the other, life is, and I can say from my example, it's a different opportunity, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity which God has given you to reset the thermostat, as I would say. Look at your own self. If you do exercise, if you are able to lose significant amount of weight because you have time at your disposal for looking after yourself, you will probably save yourself from the severe manifestations of COVID, but also it might save you from developing diabetes, save you from developing hypertension, save you from many other things. So you see, there has to be a conscientious effort to do that and I can share with you experience from what I see in my colleagues. I can tell you many of my colleagues in our institution, they have kind of lost weight. They become more, they become fitter. So this adversity has also come with an opportunity to set things right in a way. So I think everybody should make an conscientious effort. And as I can tell you, you can use technology to your advantage. If you can't go to the parks, if you can't go to anywhere else, you can use the Twitter or you can use the YouTube channels to learn exercises, learn yoga, learn Zumba, learn aerobics, learn whatever you can within your household. You can do so many things with the technology that you don't really
Keep
have to,
fit.
yeah, to make yourself fit. That's what I would say.
Right. Dr. Danda, for the human body is an amazing machine. I don't think we will ever replicate something that works so well, the body. Now, the immune system is a critical part of our body, and uh, it its fine-tuned working is critical for us. Even for something for women to bear children, if their immune system is not sound, they will not even be able to bear children. The body may think that the embryo is foreign and attack the embryo. So, as we grow older, does that fine-tuned balance of the immune system go off? Are you saying, is it possible that as younger kids, as very little kids, 4 or 5 years, the immune system has not completely developed? But once it develops to say about 25, 30, our immune system is in 100% form, and then it starts deteriorating because of the inflammatory conditions that Dr. Sharma has spoken of, obesity, or sometimes people say that you could get inflammation by having dairy products, which at younger age, may not cause inflammation, but later on, the lactose, the enzymes to break down the lactose reduce, so you will get more inflammation, and you don't realize it, but the stress also increases the inflammation in your body, which is why the immune system doesn't work to perfection later on in our life. Is this thesis right? Can we do something about this?
Excellent question. Okay, thank you for this question. Uh, in fact, you know, it's a. I'll go a little philosophical and then with reality. 2 years back, there was an article in Nature which said 70 is the new 50, that 50 is the new 30. The COVID has sort of uh, altered this now. They made 50 or 70. So, truly speaking, yes, with age, the immune system tones down. The immune system response is not as robust at 70 as that expected in 30 or 40. So there is also increased inflammation called inflammaging. With age, there is some kind of inherent inflammation which goes on. So certainly higher age is a disadvantage, and if it is added on to other comorbidities like obesity, central obesity, then it makes it worse. And I would like to mention here certain things that Dr. Aman and Dr. Ruchika said. One is Dr. Ruchika said about the hygiene hypothesis. It's very, very important. Uh, in fact, as you said, the nature of God, whatever you call, made our human body so unique that it doesn't collapse just like that. You know, when we disobey and do things totally out of the way, it does insult
Adapt.
adapt.
It adapts.
So absolutely. So like we have an immune response where you have what is it called? Infection. The immune response to infection is actually has been found that wherever there is a higher infection, there is some protection from autoimmune diseases. Like, you know, when we had hookworm and parasites in stool, when the poor hygienic conditions, there is to be lesser rheumatoid arthritis. There are some people say so, and because the immune response to the parasite was protective against rheumatoid arthritis. So there are some fine balances between what is known as T regulatory cells and the T helper cell. When the T regulatory cells are more, they give more infection and they suppress the immunity, whereas the other way around, it causes more autoimmunity. So there is a fine balance. Basically, the basic philosophy of life. I remember my father-in-law, who's no more, used to say, "Do everything in life within balance." If you do everything in life within balance, it is a great philosophy. There is no overdoing. Suppose you keep doing exercise so much that in 1 month you lose 20 kilos. That's not good. That's not good either. So it can cause a lot of adverse effects. So you have to do everything in balance. The nature, and all of us had time to introspect ourselves, to live with nature, to look outside the birds singing, wake up in the morning with the birds singing. These things were not there for many, many months and years. So we have to balance our lifestyle and everything. About smoking and alcohol, I must say, even if smoking has one good effect, I will still say don't smoke, because smoking has 100 other bad effects. And most data says smoking is bad, even because the lungs are affected and smoking has a direct adverse effect on the lungs. And alcohol also, people think that alcohol may make them feel good, but alcohol also, beyond moderation, can be very harmful in COVID scenario too. So in our lifestyle, we have to, and also I must say that stick to our traditional way of eating. The Indian food, which used to be rich in spices, suddenly the middle class find, oh, this is too much chili, this is too much of spices, I don't like it. They would rather go for sweets and calories and fat. That is no good. All fat are pro-inflammatory, substrate for pro-inflammatory cytokines. So fat has to be grossly restricted. So is our uh, sugar content. Whereas spices, you know why India was invaded again and again? For spices. India was invaded for again and again for spices. That is our strength. Like yoga, spices are our strength. It doesn't boost our immunity, but they are antiviral. They are antioxidants. They protect from heart attack. So I think we should eat more spicy food. Not only curcumin and turmeric, but also many other spices. Indian spices are good. So, in summary, if I have to say that with age, yes, our immune system gets tones down, but there is also a brighter side. There is something known as memory cells. When you have an exposure to an infection, the memory cells last for a long time and they prevent a reinfection. Again, the memory cells become less effective as they age increase. It is same thing in younger children too. You can see that COVID response in children is totally different. They develop Kawasaki's like disease. They develop COVID-2 or gangrene with more of thrombosis, more of a like an innate immune response, a robust, immediate response which is blind and non-specific. So the immune system has to be fine-tuned. Naturally, body does it unless they insult. If you have 8 hours sleep, if you have a balanced diet, no overeating, no undereating, you take enough fluid intake, you do regular moderate exercise, no smoking, no alcohol, eat our traditional Indian spicy diet, do yoga, do pranayama, breathing exercises, do, as Ruchika said, they will improve the endogenous endorphins, and keep ourselves calm. These are the ways our life was. These are the ways we used to live maybe 2 generations, 3 generations back. And today we are paying the price of modernity, such a heavy price. And Corona has come probably to teach us lessons to become more human than what we are today.
Right. Dr. Goel, you were talking about how the immune system reacts to infections, and like Dr. Danda said, in the developed world, everything is so clean and sanitized that infections don't happen, and hence the immune system must do something. It then perhaps attacks the body itself. So, are you saying for the immune system to be in top form, it should be continuously working against some infection or the other? Is that a requirement? And can we do something to keep it in that shape as we continue to age? Like Dr. Danda said, fat is bad, but then the cell membrane, every cell in our body has a membrane which has fat in it, right? So, should we just get rid of all fats or take the good fats? Sarson ka tel is supposed to be good fat. There's so many theories coming about. How do we keep our immunity in tip-top form as we age?
Actually, there is you have to understand what is called as optimum. You cannot have everything which is taken in excessive quantities as well as in the subnormal quantities will be not very good for the body. So as is the case with infections, no, it is not good to get infected. But, over time, when we are exposed to a certain small quantity of pathogens or infections, what you call, then the immune system learns to fight with them. All right, but that doesn't mean that you should go and, get yourself infected with something and then face the deleterious consequences. So that is not correct. And moreover, with regards to fat, again, yeah, some amount of fat is definitely essential for your body, as you have rightly pointed out, but that doesn't mean that you take, what the quantity of fat nowadays we take is much, much more than what is the optimum or recommended levels of the fat content in the diet that we should have. And I think in general, it is not something, the excessive quantity of this is not desirable because it has obvious deleterious consequences like obesity, atherosclerosis, and the diabetes. So all these are immunosuppressive conditions actually, but at the same time, you have an increased risk of autoimmunity, inflammation, but the protective T cells or protective B cells, the protective immunity actually takes a toll. So the best way to keep immune system as of now intact for us in an up-to-date form is to adopt a healthy lifestyle. I think we all are coming to the same thing again and again, that we have to have a healthy lifestyle measures. Exercises are definitely very important. And apart from that, regarding smoking, obviously there was a study from New York where they have shown, but I do not think there have been previous studies in other respiratory virus infections, which has clearly shown the deleterious effect of smoking in terms of increased susceptibility as well as in terms of, increased severity of illness. So you can't justify these so-called bad habits just by one study, which itself has a lot of fallacies, because see, there are a lot of confounders when you talk about smoking, and most of the time the sample size is not large enough to actually adjust for those confounders and say, this has a protective effect and all. So to keep the immune system up to date, as it has been I think repeatedly pointed out, you need to have a very good sleep, a good lifestyle, which includes exercise, having a balanced diet, adequate level of sun exposure, and but at the same time be protected from the virus, which is very important because
safety measures,
is
yeah.
the age.
Right.
And as you age, you are bound to develop a phenomenon called as immune senescence, where the immune system doesn't act to protect you against the pathogens, but at the same time, it behaves in an awkward way, and certain pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are not supposed to be present, actually, they increase in the levels of these cytokines increase. So it is not possible for you to avoid immune senescence, but at the same time, try not to age by adopting all these healthy lifestyles. Yes.
All right. Dr. Sharma, I want you to do some crystal ball gazing for us now. We're in a pandemic. We are scrambling for different types of treatment for patients who get into a severe form of the disease. What is the way forward? Is the vaccine going to be the answer to all this, or is there going to be a herd immunity? Because in the end, it is the immune system which is going to respond, whether there is a herd immunity. The too many people got it, and there are very few more to infect. So that's how the herd immunity is happening. Or, I mean, people are still afraid of, am I going to be part of that shield who will get it so that others don't get it? Or do we just wait for the vaccine? Because vaccines take time. Traditionally it is at least 1.5 years. Now they're fast tracking it. Looking ahead, what do you think is the most probable path forward? Dr. Sharma, can you hear me?
I think my wish list would have vaccine. I've been. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Am I audible?
Ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my wish list would have vaccine at the top, and I would say that we should, as the most important thing is, while we are very good at sermonizing and telling other people what to do, as a nation we still fail when we go out on the road and see that at least a substantial percentage of population is still not wearing the mask the way they should. Although they are having the mask on the face, but it is not where it's supposed to be. It is either on the chin or face while not covering the nose. So we are failing in our duty to delay the peak, as they say, and wait till the time that the vaccine develops. In Government of India has also fast-tracked the vaccine development program. You would have seen those news recently, and there are other groups who are actively involved in vaccine development. Probably by the end of this year or maybe early next year, we should have a vaccine. Having said that, I am not a great believer in herd immunity. In the populations, why I say so, in the populations who are, who are beyond their peak and beyond the hill and on a downtrend, and maybe which would give you some. So I don't know whether it will really play a role in such a disease. I think I won't really be of a belief get infected. It will be kind of a death sentence for a substantial percentage of population. So I can see Dr. Danda nodding his head. Probably he also believes. I think we should wait for the vaccine, and if we should become responsible citizens before telling the other people what is right and what is wrong, look your face in the mirror and say whether I'm doing the things rightly or not. You see, still there is a lot which needs to be done, and I can tell you, if we do those things properly, if everybody is wearing a mask, and I think then you don't need to fall back behind what you call as a.
All right.
I hope I'm here.
Yeah, you were breaking up, Dr. Sharma, but we understood.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're waiting and holding out for a vaccine to come through. Dr. Danda, would you also be hopeful for a vaccine? Because why I ask is because there's no vaccine for HIV. It's been 2 decades and there is no vaccine. So how fruitful will our wait be?
I certainly love to reply to this question, but I will go back a little bit on what Dr. Aman and Dr. Ruchika said also. First of all, I must tell you, I have to shout because to make me audible. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say that uh, people have not understood the implications of herd immunity. It's not a ready-made formula to be applied to every pandemic. You know, herd immunity doesn't mean the people who are uninfected yet they get immunity. No, it's not that. It is just about you have an infectivity factor known as rho. The rho is between 2 and 3 as it is in case of COVID. We need to get 50 to 60% people to get infected to stop the pandemic. It means what? It means about 70 to 80 crore Indians or more to get infected to protect the remaining 60 crores. Now, what happens if 70 crore Indians get infected? Even with the present death rate of 3%, it means almost 2 crore deaths. It is not acceptable in any civilized society these days to allow this happen. You know, Sweden now they have started an inquiry to see why they have not adopted lockdown compared to remaining Scandinavian countries who are so successful. Now, I must tell you, how can you achieve the same goals of herd immunity by just doing restrictions or stay at home? Idea is the virus has about 2 weeks period of incubation period to infect somebody, and it lasts in a human body not beyond 6 weeks. So if you have 8 weeks, say plus minus 2 weeks, 10 weeks of strict stay at home, as it was done in Vietnam and South Korea and other countries, if you do that, the virus concentration in the population, the society will come down to a negligible level, and any spread from there will be very easily containable. So what eventually happens, you save the population with the same intensity. Even in herd immunity, if you achieve herd immunity, there will be still somebody who will contain the virus. And if the unexposed population is exposed to it, it can again spread. So herd immunity is good for diseases like polio, which doesn't kill. You can have polio, you can have herd immunity, remaining will be protected. You may get few paralysis, but many will not die. But in a disease with a 3% mortality and up to 7% in some population, it is absolutely uncivilized to go for herd immunity. And our lockdown was prematurely relaxed from 6 weeks onwards. And that is the reason we are seeing this. We would have had a much better outcome. So that is number one. Now, it comes to vaccine. Yes, vaccine is the most civilized way of protecting the whole population. An ideal vaccine, unlike what is being hype is being created in media that in 15th August vaccine is going to be used, it is impossible. Any vaccine may be produced by 15th August, but to have a clinical trial, you have an animal study, you have phase 1, phase 2A, phase 2B, and phase 3 randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and then you have systematic review, and then only you can license a vaccine to be safe. You know, the rotavirus vaccine was started in a hurry and it killed a lot of people. The vaccine had to be withdrawn. So therefore, it is not so easy. But vaccine also, I must tell you, the elderly will not produce such a good response as the young people. So we need drugs. We need effective drugs to kill the virus. And that is what. And I must tell you, remdesivir is only a modest drug. It doesn't protect from death. It only reduces hospital stay. So we need to have a lot of drugs to come in apart from this. I would also like to have about fat, one more question, but Ruchika said, yes, there are good fat. Something called omega-3 fatty acid. In Indian diet, in vegetarian diet, we have mustard oil, we have canola oil, we have nuts. All the nuts have high omega-3 fatty acid. They are protective against, they improve immune system. Yeah, inflammation they control. Also fish and egg also have. So what I'm trying to say that if you ask me what I will opt for, I will not like 40% of Indians who have got metabolic syndrome to be allowed to die in a death which is not at all warranted at 50s and 60s and 70s to die, because today people can live with control of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease up to 90 years normal life, and you cannot allow them to die just by this kind of natural infection to spread. And government should, at any stage, if you have a strict lockdown, shutdown, stay at home, curfew, whatever you call, if people are restricted, and Aman said very rightly, In India, social distancing is impossible. We are so many people. We are too many of us. We need to wear masks properly. And you'll be surprised how the ICMR and even various bodies, WHO, failed to see that in the beginning. The virus, simple property, it is 0.3 micron size, and the interpore, interfiber, interfabric pore in any textile is a little smaller than that. So virus cannot penetrate even if you have double layer normal homemade cotton mask. So we need to do that. We need to wait for drug. We need to wait for vaccine. We need to develop sense of hygiene, and we have to avoid crowding. We have to cocoon or protect the people who are little obese or centrally obese.
Right, Dr. Ruchika Goel, very quickly, we're running out of time. Your last words. What are you hopeful for? Better treatment, vaccine, herd immunity. What are you betting on?
I think I would bet on a vaccine, but it is going to take time. So till an effective vaccine is out with a good, I'm not talking about immunological efficacy, but it is all about the clinical efficacy. So till the vaccine is out, you have to somehow decrease the mortality with the virus, and mortality as well as infectivity of the virus. So ultimately, if you ask me what is the answer is still the herd immunity. The only problem is you have to infect a lot of people before you get herd immunity. So I think we probably, as of now, we have to buy time till the vaccine comes. And till the vaccine is out, an effective vaccine is out, and we can buy time only by getting not infected, by
staying safe,
widely publicized measures. And at the same time, there are certain group of patients, people like the elderly, the patients having comorbidities and all, they have to be probably shielded for as long as they can afford to. And so we have bought time till the vaccine comes out. And then ultimately for as the virus has an ability to mutate. So you do not know how effective the vaccine is going to be. We have to hope for the virus itself to decrease its severity, and at the same time we have to ultimately wait for the herd immunity to kick in before the entire pandemic, you can prevent the waves of pandemics to come in. So I'm hoping for for the vaccine to come out, and then wait for overall the host immune system to work, so that the pandemic, you don't have a risk of a third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave, because people are expecting 7 waves of this infection, the pandemic in future.
Come through. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Danda, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Ruchika. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us your information, your knowledge, your views on how the immune system can be fine-tuned. Not just to beat the coronavirus, but to stay in tip-top, fashion, so that we can continue to live a healthy lifestyle well into the 60s and 70s as well. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing the immunological aspect of fighting diseases like coronavirus. Thank you so much.